know if anybody is in the house that's joining us today, that you're alive and well and you're excited. I hope that you are. I've got a little Justin Timberlake bumping in the background right now, so I'm feeling pretty good. And I got Amy Jo Martin with the amazing smile out there from ear to ear. You're going to hear from her in just a few minutes. But I want to know, is anybody out there? We got Rick says, yes, indeed. If I get a little quiet, if I get a little close, it means I'm looking at the chat right here. Let's see. We've got Rick says hi. Anissa says hi. Yes, with all capitals. Hello, everyone. Hi, hi. Hello from Swanee, Georgia. Let me know where you're calling in from. We got folks from Denver in the building. Hi there. Good afternoon. From Calgary. Amazing. We're so excited that you're here. Straight from DC to ATL, from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Oh my goodness, this is like, we're about to go international with this thing. That's what I'm talking about. We're super, super pumped that you guys are here with us. And welcome to Live with Leadercast. My name is Billy Boughey, your host of the Leadercast event that is, listen, Sean, we got to pause the music because I said it's nice and loud. We are 1 week away. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. We are 1 week away from Leadercast. If you're excited about it, I want to see you in the chat say it is time to get turned up or to get turned, or I am excited, or I am fired up. However you express your inner excitement, I want to hear that in the chat right now. I am excited. It is timed. It is time to get turned up. Okay, time, that's plural, or more than one thing. Super excited, turn up. I'm ready for Leadercast. We are ready for you, and I could not be more excited being your host. These events have been so much fun leading up. This is our fourth part of the Live with Leadercast series. We got Amy Jo Martin. If you can see her on the screen, just say, I can see her. She looks amazing. I'm excited to hear from her. And Billy, be quiet. Say something like that in the chat if you're ready for me to be quiet and hear from her. Let's see. Let's get it. Ready. She's ready. She's ready. We can't wait. I'm ready. Turn up. Super excited. I like it. Boom. The time has come. I can see Amy. Look at her smile. I mean, she's just smiling around there ear to ear. She's ready to go. I love it. Thank you. I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Those of you tuning in, we're super excited to hear from Amy Jo in just a minute. But let me just remind you of a few things. Our theme this year is positive disruption. And as the host of this event, I just want you to know this theme was picked 18 months ago. This is not just because of COVID-19, not just because of what's happening right now. This was a forethought long ago that as leaders, regardless of what's happening around us, we need a positive disruption. And all of the wonderful speakers that are going to be joining us this year, right behind me, you can see a few. You see Magic Johnson, and then you see this young lady right after Magic Johnson in this promo videos, who we're going to hear from today, are disruptors. We have some amazing speakers. We have 9 of them actually that are going to be a part of this event. 3 different sessions of 3 speakers apiece. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm going to be on Facebook Live and Instagram Live and hanging out with you guys in different ways throughout the event. And then we're going to hear from our speakers all day long too. So I'm just fired up, Sean. I got Sean Specie on the mic. You can't see him, but you can hear him. Sean, are you excited? Because I'm fired up right now.
I'm really excited. It's going to be great. And we've already got a speaker here with us.
I like it.
She's ready to go.
I mean, listen, I consider myself a renegade. I mean, I consider myself somebody who likes to go against the grain. It's kind of like the underdog. But when I heard Amy Jo speak, I told her this before we went live, is that I love her talk on just being a renegade and what that means for us to sort of take up this underdog approach or this renegade approach going against the grain. She got some amazing stories. So we're excited to hear her on the day of Leadercast and a little bit today as well. But once again, my name is Billy. I wrote a book called Culture Reconstructed. I'm the president of Elevate Experiences, and I really want to help people live and lead at a higher level. And that's what our goal is. This is me on the stage at Leadercast Women just a few months ago. And you notice there's a lot of people in the crowd. Even though we're not going to be together in person at Leadercast this year, my job is to make you feel as connected as possible. So in the chat, on social media, as we connect the day up, I would love, 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 love for you to use the hashtag Leadercast and hashtag LC Positive Disruption so we can connect with you. But where I'm standing right now, this is what this looked like. Like where I'm standing right now, it looked like this. This is our storage room, and now it's turned into our virtual studio. I know a lot of you out there are having to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make things happen. And Amy Jo, we're going to bring her on here in a moment to share how she does that as well. So I'm excited for you to hear from her. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. If you have a picture, if you have a smartphone or a not so smartphone, whatever kind of phone you have, just take the camera app, and if you'll take a picture of this screen, it will take you to LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with you there. So I invite you. I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. I'll see you on LinkedIn, and I'll also see you on Facebook as well. Make sure that you join us the day of the event. Now, speaking of positive disruption, without further ado, however you say it, listen, Amy Jo Martin Let me read this. Digital media pioneer, best-selling author, named one of the most powerful women on Twitter by Forbes, small little publication, might have heard of it. Amy Jo helps people and businesses revolutionize their brand. She's the author of Renegades, Write the Rules, host of the acclaimed Why Not Now podcast, and founder of the intensive training Renegade Brand Bootcamp for Business Women. Her topic is Why Not Now? And I would like to just pause, and for the folks that are out there listening, to hear a little bit about you, maybe fill in some of the blanks on your story, and then I'll dive into a few questions. But Amy Jo Martin, we are super, super excited to have you. So take it away.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Look at that energy, Billy. You're bringing it today. I love it. And it's great to see the chat rocking and rolling too. So thank you for having me. I could not be more excited to be a part of Leadercast and the Positive Disruption event next week. It's so up my alley. I don't know. I was born a renegade, as I say. And renegades are all about positive disruption, not destruction, right? We can color outside the lines without crossing the line type of vibe. And I just live and breathe that. And I feel that now more so than ever is a time to be innovating. And so we'll talk about that, and I'm sure we'll get into that. A little bit about me. I think what's important to mention is I was born in a small town in Wyoming in a trailer park, and I was always out adventuring and looking for what else is out there and trying to create something new, and kind of addicted to change. And so followed my my journey, ended up going to Arizona State University, which was the #1 party school in America at the time. So that says something, I guess, but studied marketing and worked in ad agencies and big picture brands, working on the corporate side as well as in on the agency side, and then ended up working in the NBA for the Phoenix Suns. And this was 2008. So we're talking in the middle of the economic crisis. And there's some parallels, of course, of how we're feeling now. And so it was a time when we were really, I say we, but it was really kind of me and a few other folks, one of which was Shaquille O'Neal. We started innovating and experimenting with social media. And so I talk a little bit about that in my keynote next week. But then I ended up starting my own company. And as someone who never imagined, becoming an entrepreneur and being really comfortable in that corporate world, it was a huge step. This was 2009, and kind of carried on and working with some of the biggest brands and icons out there you can imagine. So these are brands that I used to have a crush on when I was growing up, right? I used to think of brands in terms of personalities, and that logo to me had energy. It had more. It was much more than just a logo. And so fortunately for me, I was able to then go and exercise kind of that philosophy with my own company and working with Nike and Motorola and Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and some big players. And the experimentation part of this, when no one knew what they were doing, right? It was the wild, wild west days. And I'd still argue and say nobody knows what they're doing right now. And it's what lights me up. I have a bit of an addiction to that phase of innovation where you're doing things that push you into that unknown. And that's what we should be doing right now. So ended up exiting the agency, and I do a lot of public speaking. I have a podcast called Why Not Now, and also another book coming out, as well as a program for female leaders and entrepreneurs, and it's called the Renegade Brand Bootcamp. So anyway, that's a little bit about me.
I love it. And you mentioned brands that give you energy. That made me think of a question. Can you give me a handful of brands that give you energy? Is there 3 or 4 that you look at their logo, look at their stamp, and say, that just gives me energy? Which ones are those for you?
Yes, what a good question. I love the first things that popped into mind, just because it's iconic and it was where I literally had a crush on it, was Nike and the swoosh. It's Bumble. You look at Bumble, the dating app, but also the business mode. There's energy that I feel when I look at that brand. Also, Headspace, the meditation platform and app. And gosh, it's funny because it's always faces behind the brand, right? So we tend to have a connection with someone, even if it's Starbucks. You think about your Starbucks, right? You have your Starbucks and your person that you're used to going, and it's the people behind the brands that give it energy. It's more than just that static, presence and logo. And I really believe in humanizing brands to the extent that we make connections.
I love it. And in the chat right now, I see some folks writing. I would love to hear those of you in chat, what brand gives you the most energy? I think that's a fun question for us to examine. And I actually do a part of a talk that I give is I'll put up different brands on the screen. I pick Apple, I pick Pixar, and I pick the Ritz-Carlton, and I ask people what they think when they see those. And then I'll say Sears, Kodak, Toys R Us, Blockbuster, some older brands, and I'll say, let's think about these for a second on the screen. And then, hey, let's put a picture of you up there. What do people think of when they think of your brand? And I know that's one of your points in your talk that you share. And I've already got a sneak peek of what you're going to be sharing at Leadercast next week. So if you don't have your tickets, you must get your tickets. If anything else, it's just the Amy Jo Martin show. Just show up for that show because it's amazing. I know you talk about it's not just the logo, it's the flavor behind it, it's the people behind it. And your renegade point number one in your talk is you must humanize before you monetize. How can we do that in COVID-19? How are you seeing the best brands go from just monetize to humanize?
Yes, such a good question, because you have to have an online presence right now, right? Everything is virtual. So coming from the ad agency and marketing and classic branding and marketing world, we learn about impressions. But what I've learned in really studying up close and personal and working on the front lines of humanizing brands over the last decade is impressions don't always convert, but connection does. So if we look, and it's counterintuitive and counterproductive to kind of everything that we're consuming right now. If you just look at social media, social communication, it's not really media. It's so easy for us as humans to look at those numbers in terms of the metrics. I refer to them as vanity metrics, right? Our following and potential reach and impressions. And what holds to be true time after time is that the connection from human to human is what actually converts, right? That's when you're going to really see that KPI start to move. And it's so easy to get caught up in some of these vanity metrics, and then we start to play a different game. It's a completely different game that in a lot of cases you can't win right now because the algorithms are changing daily. There's so much noise. We're all getting it. How many emails do you get in your inbox a day right now that say, hey, come and learn how to, tackle during COVID-19 times, or how to XYZ, and we're fatigued. So we have to shine through as humans and make a deeper connection at that why and who level, not just the what. Because if we transcend the what is marketing, right? The what is advertising, and it will come through anyway. But if we explain why we're doing what we're doing, who we are, that connection, in my experience, it converts.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Lululemon logo for the very first time. And understanding the brand is something that was primarily yoga pants and really just kind of the yogi kind of life. And then I remember when I saw the logo, and I'm wearing Lululemon pants right now. I have about 15 pair of them. It's about all that I wear now.
Me too.
And
Me too.
I fell in love with the story behind the brand. You know why? Because I walked into the store the very first time, and I remember seeing up on their wall, they had the names of their team members on this chalkboard. And this one particular one that was in Atlanta, and they might do that at all these, I'm not quite sure. They said, what is your 5-year vision and what are you most passionate about? And they had their answers. And so the cashier, I said, hey, what are you most passionate about? And he went into a dissertation of what he loved, and it started a really cool conversation. And I said, why do you guys do that? He said, we want people to know it's not just a logo, it's about the people. And I was like, yep, I'm in. And so I think it's just so important, as you mentioned, right now everything's going virtual. I'm spending so much time on LinkedIn and Facebook and Snapchat and TikTok and on these platforms sharing what you're doing. But if you're not connecting, as Gary Vaynerchuk would say, is that social media is just a slang term for the current state of the internet. I've always loved that phrase. And the current state of the internet is it's not about you just posting stuff. It's about really connecting and sharing about who you are. So I love that concept. You're selected as a speaker for May 7th because of the renegade leadership concept. renegade is such a cool word. If I were to see you and hear you talk about renegade, I'd be like, that's interesting. Just seeing your background. And now I don't want to let too many secrets out of the bag of what you're going to talk about, but just the interaction with Shaquille O'Neal and your boss and like that whole thing and how you stepped over. It just blew me away. And so I love that that's your concept. And this why not now thing seems to be really coupled tightly with the renegade concept. So share a little bit with our folks that are tuning in of what the word renegade means to you, and then how you came up with the why not now as it connects to being a renegade.
I would love to. Awesome. So renegade, we talked about positive disruption instead of destruction. And really renegades they crave getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So pushing ourselves into that zone where we know we're going to grow, and innovation happens when we're uncomfortable, because anytime we innovate, adversity will follow. And as you mentioned, when I got a call one day when I was working for the Phoenix Suns in the NBA, and it was from the locker room, and they said, come down, Shaq wants to learn how to tweet. And if I would have asked for permission from my front office boss on the business side, I probably would have never gotten that green light. So we have to ask forgiveness and bring our results with us, though. That's key. Like, bring them in your back pocket. But right now, more so than ever.
Wait. That's one of the coolest things I've ever heard say. I want you to pause right there. Okay. I want to make sure that everybody heard that. Say that again one more time. Is that you said
you ask
forgiveness.
You ask forgiveness instead of permission. You can't wait for an invite, but bring your results with you in your back pocket. So you have some backup.
I need a microphone to drop. Do we have a microphone in here that I can drop? I know I'm off screen. Do I have a microphone that I can drop? I need a mic, some sort of microphone that I can drop. Here it is. I'm going to drop the bullhorn because this is not a microphone. I'm going to drop it. There it is. Dropped it. Well, I caught it anyway, so I didn't break it. But anyway, that's amazing. Hold on.
It's from experience. I mean, I've had to do that. You can ruffle a lot of feathers and make a lot of waves if you're asking forgiveness. So you better have your backup with you. But sometimes that's the only way to go, because you can't wait for an invite, right? Yeah. There's just not any time, especially right now. So you think about a petri dish, right? Which might be not the best analogy right now, but let's just roll with this for a second. So you're trying something new. Let's say it's a project. Nobody knows what they're doing right now. So we have to be moving quickly from idea to action. That delta needs to be quick. There's no time for analysis paralysis and working things up the chain over the course of a month. So we've got a petri dish, and we write the word beta on the side of it. As soon as that beta word comes into play, and people know this is the first time we've ever done this, we don't know what's going to happen, it's almost like everybody just eases up a little bit and says, okay, we're going to give you a little space with that, because we put this out there, this experiment, get some feedback, bring it back in, iterate, refine, and repeat, and continue that process. And that's what leads to best practices. And I think that quickness right now, the playing field is leveled. And if there's any time to be trying something new, it's now. And if we look back at 2008, that time frame, and I know it's not the same, but there were some similarities. The people and the companies and the leaders who were iterating quickly and trying things and building the plane while they were flying and fixing it too, they're the ones that changed business models. They're the ones that changed consumer behavior. Yeah. So it's actually, I think, a really ripe, amazing time right now from a business standpoint to be letting go of what we've wanted to make changes with anyway. And there's no excuse, right? Those are innovation allergies. If we say, well, that hasn't been done before, or what if it doesn't work?
Wait. Innovation allergies, is that a book?
No, but it might, I just refer, when you're sitting around, I know we're not doing it right now, but you're on a Zoom call and you're discussing something with your team and someone says, we can't do that. We've never done that before. Or one of my favorite is, that'll never work. That won't get approved. And those are innovation allergies, right? They're normal, but they also keep us from moving forward.
I love it. And the opening of Leadercast, I'm going to be talking about the Carousel of Progress, which is Walt Disney's ride down in the Magic Kingdom in Florida. But in the late 1950s, he had this idea, and it was called Progress Land, and GE saw it, and it didn't really work. And then 5 years later, he actually brought it to the World's Fair, and then it's become one of the most famous roller coasters of all time, famous kind of rides of all time. And it started with this idea of we're going to get people up, we're going to move, we're going to do this stuff. And then eventually the iterations got around to this rotating theater. They added a song to it. They made it something, but you couldn't get to what it is now until you explore where you're at today. So the people that are on the call that are listening in, I love your comments. I'm looking at them right now. Blockbuster, wow, that's a definite throwback. Tesla drops the mic. Thank you for that. Look at all the fun comments that are in here. All of you that are listening in, I'm very curious, and I bet this question is, the listeners have this as well, is how are you innovating right now? You've got a great book that's out. You're obviously a keynote speaker. I'd love to hear, might be a selfish question, how are you pivoting with the times for your keynote talks, how you're positioning your brand, maybe the ideas that you thought you were going to play out this year, how are you adjusting now from an innovation standpoint? I'd love to hear that.
It's a great question, and it has changed. I mean, as a speaker who travels to live events, that's not happening right now, of course. So, one way, for example, with Leadercast, and kudos to you for continuing on and moving forward with this event, because a lot of events are being canceled or rescheduled. And this in a form has been a big innovation process and testing. So delivering a keynote to a huge audience virtually that isn't there in person is a stretch for a speaker, because we get our energy from you, from the live audience. And so that in itself, I went to social media and I said, hey, do you guys have ideas on how I can do this? Like, how can I create a version of this audience and or find a way to create that same energy? And so I had all of these ideas come back to me. And what I think is interesting is we don't always have to figure it out ourselves. We can ask our customers, we can ask our audience, hey, do you have ideas? And curate, right? And start to get, not only is it it's more scalable to reach and get more ideas, but you're also learning a ton about what's important to them. So that's one way. I mean, my virtual experience, so running a program that's a learning experience, it's a 3-month intensive boot camp, leveraging technology so that intimacy is still there. We have people all over the globe that are in my program, the Renegade Brand Boot Camp, and being able to use things like Zoom and Slack and platforms in a different way. These aren't necessarily new platforms, but we're finding ways to have new channels that bring more intimacy and create a sense of culture. And I think just in general, I'm stretching myself from a humanizing standpoint, starting to talk about things I've never talked about, but from a place of, knowing that there are conversations that need to be surfaced. So I think sometimes innovation, it doesn't have to look, it can be the distribution method. It could be one component of a bigger model that just needs tweaking, and it turns out to be a pretty big innovative step. So yeah, it's a lot of different things, but I think the point is that the online space has been democratized, right? It's an equal opportunity space. It always has been, but more so now, because that's where we are all day, every day. And so it's a land grab in terms of the ability to make connection.
I love it. You said so much in there that I want to explore, and we've only got a few more minutes. So I want to make sure I get to this question, and it's an important one. Sean, I think I see a question that came in on the chat. Do you see one? I see someone saying, using this time to pause, recognize where I am, flowing the next phase of my life, finding the courage and bravery, move your cursor there so I can see, find the courage and bravery to reach out, to engage with mentors, ask for help, which has been really hard for me. I think we're all doing hard things. We're all trying new things, whether that's to reach out to somebody we haven't talked to in a long time. I know a lot of people that I know are just starting a TikTok account, although I had it slightly before the pandemic and been putting up fun videos there. But for you and your expertise, how would you say everybody that's here that might have never thought of themselves as a personal brand? We all are a brand. Our name is a brand. It's just our reputation and how we come across to the world. what are some suggestions you would give right now in this moment, or people that are building their own brand, of not to feel like, hey, look at me, but hey, let me present my value? What are some ways you've seen folks that have sort of overcome that, I don't want to be too much about myself, but I do need to share who I am on the various channels? I'd love to hear you take that in any direction you want to go.
That's a great question. And it's one that I do hear a lot, because it can easily, if we flip this phone around and we're talking into it, it feels like a look at me, right? And one way to think about it is, first of all, you don't brand yourself. You just are yourself. That creates a brand, right? So the whole idea of personal branding is a bit of a counterintuitive one to begin with. Second of all, what value do you have to offer, right? So you're not the hero, you're the guide. Your audience is the hero, one person at a time, right? Not trying to reach the masses here, one connection at a time. And thinking about the value you can provide from a place of service versus a place of look at me. And value comes in so many different types of formats. And I refer to it as value balance buckets, and we'll get into this more in the talk, but you want to diversify that type of value. So, an example of this is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And a lot of people say, yeah, that's great. That's a neat example, but I'm not him. Well, when I first met DJ, he did not want to start using social media. He's a private guy, and he didn't want to have another thing, right? And then just didn't want to kind of share any other side. And innovation allergies, right? Clearly he came around and now is arguably one of the most successful individuals on social, but also the highest paid actor in the world, because he was willing to diversify his value. So when you think about your own value, if you're constantly talking about the same thing, look at this, come click here, and you're making asks all the time and it feels like sales, it's the quickest way to turn people off and get frustrated, because when we start to go into that sales mode, even if it doesn't feel salesy, but you're constantly talking about the same thing all the time, that's not being human. That's being very intentional about wanting someone to do something. We turn people off, and then the algorithm isn't going to favor that. And then we'll get frustrated because we feel like we're spinning our wheels and not seeing results. So find that value and diversify it. Value comes in so many different forms, but you do want to show up and be relatable. Like, what happened today that was human? Start there, right? And listening first versus just trying to go out and start your own conversation. It's much easier to join a conversation than it is to start one. So kind of thinking of it as turning the tables. We learn what we need to teach. And so you are uniquely qualified to be you. And that common denominator, that personality, and then who you are and why you do what you do is what you want to focus on. So there's a first start, is identifying that value and diversifying it.
Amy Jo, you are a breath of fresh air, my friend. I really, really appreciate you being on live with Leadercast with us. Any one bottom line statement? We've got to jump off the air here in a moment, but anything bottom line that you want to share to leave our listeners with?
What's popping in is that you can't just wrong if you show up as you. So if you are thinking to yourself, I've never really shown up and embraced social media, like owning my voice, try something, right? The space is alive. It moves real time. Nobody's waiting for it. And believe it or not, it's going to move quickly through that feed. So I would definitely own your voice and start speaking up. We need that more so than ever. And it's rocket fuel to where you want to go, because you'll make those connections.
I love it. Well, we will see you on May 7th. Those of you that are tuning in, if you haven't got your tickets, make sure you join us. You're going to hear from Amy Jo Martin and 8 other phenomenal speakers that are going to be with us. And this is our last event before Leadercast, our last lead up until next Thursday. And we will see you all there live at Leadercast May the 7th next week. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. And Amy Jo, thanks once again. We'll see you very, very soon.
Thank you so much.
Got it. See y'all. Bye-bye.